Word Spoken Podcast.
The revolution will not be televised because we are ill-advised. Media's mantra is pushed by Philistines to vilify and caramelize their villainry so we enjoy a sweet taste when they fill us with lies. Because the narcissist will rise, nihilist complies. The anarchist can't decide which side to support until we are bought. Given all you can eat data in exchange for the freedom of our thoughts and the fraudulent data harvest that will target our catharsis. Vanquishing our inner Marxists, unveiling the darkest. Propaganda that propagates profits by drilling into the cavities of our misplaced anger and appealing to the vanity of our nostalgia. Because we've all seen Stranger Things, it seems. Trapped in the tragedy of a Shakespearean wet dream made defunct. Digitally drunk. Can't take a stand against the tire-wearing cyberpunks like Robert Mercer, who got the answer from Neuromancer, blueprinted a rose-tinted election, and those who minted are sadistic in manipulation, creating a PR contest armed to the teeth with algorithms to vote against your interest. Whilst they pop a populist prescription, but brother, you should have read the terms and conditions. And how's the cesspool with fake information you dragged us down into? Are you more financially successful? Slightly less fearful? And don't scorn at my question, please look cheerful, because you were promised a diamond Netsit got annoyed when it revealed to be topaz. Whereas the last line of defense is keeping the internet neutral free and formless like jazz, and if we don't, next time we log on we'll be entering Alcatraz. Because the NSA emerged from the crevice to hear what you say, provide a service to stockpile our shame, go from big data to big brother to why the fuck should we even bother? When we're molded into plastic people, with a needle in our cerebral, lobotomized, drained out our chemicals, vandalize ourselves so we no longer feel equal to the celebs that hand sanitize. We erect the great firewall, causing a great digital divide, and if I had to talk about my generation, it'd be tape up your webcam because you're going out live, and how privacy represents a burnt hard drive. So unplug, tune in, and stay outside. Because the revolution will not be televised, but it stirs in places like this. Be a landslide emotion of injustice that you will not dismiss. So pucker up your lips and give this government a death kiss.
Boom. So there we go. That was George Lawrence with The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. Hello, George. How are you doing, buddy? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm doing really good right now. How you doing?
Yeah, mate, I'm all right. Look, that first piece that you just performed for us was wicked. I absolutely loved it, man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much. There's a line which I wrote down in my little notepad, right, as you were doing that. The reason is I just absolutely loved it. It's when we're molding into plastic people. That just burned an image in my mind, and I just thought it was a really good line, mate.
I appreciate that.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of why you wrote that piece, the first one?
I think I wrote this after Brexit in like 2016, because I'm one of these people, like I do quite a lot of research through The Guardian and what's happening in terms of data. And like everyone after that vote, I just became really annoyed. But then when I started doing the research in Cambridge Analytica through people like Robert Mercer, who's this massive tycoon who basically managed to help Trump get elected as well as the Brexit movement, it kind of irritated the Labour person inside of me. And it's something that I think is incredibly important, our data as a personal asset. And I think we need to be more conscious about how we give it to people. You know, something is not necessarily for free, That's why all of these sites are free.
That is the thing. I mean, when there's that old it's not an old saying, is it? But when something is free, right, it isn't the product, you are. Like you are the product. With all of these online apps, right, we're serving them. We're serving the platform. That's how it works. Yeah, I know it's kind of crazy. It's I think you kind of put it into words really, really well in that piece. And thanks, man.
No problem.
So look, why don't we kind of start off here by you telling us a little bit about how and why you got into spoken word?
Oh man, that's a crazy story. Like most people who watched 8 Mile, and as a white person, I was just like, you know what? yeah, I can rap. You know, I got like talent for this, and then ended up doing a couple of rap battles at school where I got destroyed.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Was it savage?
It was so savage that I had to basically go to the toilet. Yeah,
just like Eminem.
Yeah,
in 8 Mile. You were living out the full dream.
I know. I poured spaghetti over me as well, just to feel it. You know, feel the emotion.
A full reenactment of the scene.
Yeah, staring into the mirror ominously. Like, yeah, it was. But then, after I graduated from uni, I just kept writing quite a lot of stuff, which kind of transformed into stuff which I preferred it from an a cappella point of view. And it was something for me to give myself a lot more confidence. I mean, there's nothing more that breeds confidence than you being like, yeah, fuck it. I'm going to write something which I'm going to perform in front of people, which is strictly my own.
Totally. Yeah.
And yeah, it's earth shattering in a way, but in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think when people move from kind of rap to spoken word, I think the main thing they say is like, there's like a layer which you just have to take off not literally. I mean, you could do if you want to do, but there's like a kind of layer that you kind of wear. There's maybe a bit more of like an ego that you have to kind of have with rap, which when it kind of moves on to spoken word, suddenly that kind of might not be as helpful, and you can find yourself being a bit more raw and honest. Was that something that you found?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was that, and I remember I wrote this poem, which was something that wasn't like all about bravado, because like, you know, especially rap, you know, probably like 5 to 10 years ago was a lot about bravado. And for me, I was just like, I fell for a woman. So I decided to write a poem about a woman. And it kind of got me more in touch to this sensitive side. And I just had this burning urge just to perform it because I thought it was good. You know, I shared it with people like you normally do, just to be like, look, am I delusional in thinking this is good, you know? And from there, you just get up onto the stage and yeah, you perform, you know, and then whatever happens, happens. And I think that moment before people started clapping was the most anxiety-ridden moment of my life.
Really?
Because you're just thinking, am I validated in this point?
So where was the first time that you did it live?
Jordance.
Okay, so quite a big stage.
Mm-hmm.
So was your name pulled out of the hat, right? That's how it works there.
It was crazy because I remember, I'll never forget, I took a couple of friends down like we all do, just to have that kind of confidence of your entourage to come be like, yeah, you can do it. Yeah. And I remember 2 people got their names called out of the hat on the first round. And for some reason I stood up because I had a feeling my name was going to be called. And I was so nervous to the point that when you have to sit at the side with Richard, like, you know, in Jordance and just wait until you get called up, which is even more.
On that little school bench, don't you? Yeah. Like you're waiting in line at PE or something.
Yeah, it's either that, like you're going to be the human sacrifice. You know, I felt like I was taking it back to the Aztecs.
A lamb to the slaughter.
And yeah, it was nerve-wracking to the point that I had to down like 2 cans of Red Stripe just to like kind of stop myself from shaking in a way. Yeah.
And then, so what was the piece that you did? Can you remember?
It was cassette tape, which is about like me comparing previous relationships that I've had to, or women I've been with, to different formats of music.
Okay. So you know, you'd kind of finished that piece. You had your little moment and you were like, shit, did that go down well? I imagine it did go down well. So what was that feeling like when you kind of realized that was actually pretty good and people liked it?
I think it's the feeling that everyone feels when they perform. It's just this adrenaline rush. And you kind of become fixated on that because you're just like, I just overcame a massive hurdle for me, but yeah, I still want more. And then it changes your mindset where you think, okay, cool, I can actually do this. There'll be certain things that I will change in terms of how I did it, in terms of how I introduced myself, because I didn't say a word. I just said, I'm just going to do this up on a stage, which you're just like, because you're so nervous. But from there, you start becoming critical about how you do perform. Yeah.
And I think obviously you then start to grow and learn and you realize the kind of, I think after you've done it for the first time, you really find your style much easier, or you start to understand what your kind of style is and what you bring to the art form that no one else does. Like, I think prior to doing it for the first time, like everyone, this is understandable, but everyone just kind of doubts themselves, like kind of like you said, like I was exactly the same. You you just think everyone else is amazing and you're going to get up and make an idiot of yourself. And that isn't the case.
It's true. You kind of think that people are going to have vegetables to throw at you, tomatoes being lobbed. Like it's like
literally. Yeah, it's weird. But then, so after that kind of night, did you kind of realize, okay, whoa, this is a bit of me. Now I'm going to jump into this as an art form and kind of go with it? Or was it still a bit of a slow process from that first night?
It was a very slow process for me because I was working nights in John Lewis. So to be able to perform, I had to basically take a holiday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is commitment. Did you really?
Yeah.
To go to an open mic night, you had to take a day off work.
I had to take a day off work to do it.
Mate, I love that. That's commitment, man. That really is.
Yeah. Thank God I had holiday pay, which is good. So, because, big up John Lewis and the partnership. But
yeah,
I had to keep on doing it. I had to be selective on my days. So I had to do the research in terms of rather than, because I think if you have the luxury to basically go to nights. But I had to do my research beforehand to figure out which nights to go to because I'm taking a day off work.
Mate, that is a serious commitment.
Yeah.
That is great though, man. Look, I think it just kind of goes to show that, this art form can really grip people, right? Like there's probably a few other things where people would like take a day just to do one performance. That also at that night at Jordan's, you don't even know whether you're going to get on the mic.
True, I didn't know that until I arrived.
You don't even know if you're going to go on. You could have taken a day's thing and not even done it.
Yeah, but sometimes it's worth the risk, It definitely is.
Yeah, that is a really great night. So just for anyone that isn't aware of that night, obviously it's not happening right now, but it's run by Yomi Sode and it's great. It's in Rich Mix in Shoreditch. It's called Jordan's. Follow that page, follow whatever. Go to it when it's back up and running, right? Because it's epic. It's really, really good. Great energy in the room. And yeah, it's something that I really miss, isn't it?
He's such a good host. He's
really
such a good host.
He really is. And just kind of effortlessly guides it along, right? And gets people up and gets people encouraged. Yeah, no.
I think that's the most important thing he does is these encouragement of new people coming through. Like he does it quite often when you just like, when you can tell someone's nervous and he just kind of gives them a little boost. Just by giving them a compliment, and you can see how massively it helps people who are performing for the first time.
Yeah, no, you're right. So okay, cool. So the next thing I want to speak to you a little bit about is your involvement with word of mouth. So can you give us a bit of an intro to word of mouth for those who might not have heard of him?
Word of mouth. We are a small collective of like filmmakers who are also musicians and poets ourselves who really want to start to pioneer videos within spoken word, because one of the hardest things for a poet to have is to have a video done of them, which helps them get more feature nights where they can actually potentially get paid. So they actually have visual examples if they want to pursue funding through the Arts Council or any other means. So they can actually have this sense of professionalism. And for us, we got really hooked with spoken word because it's such an easy format to record, and people are very approachable doing it. And for us, we wanted to basically start running a night, which we did for 6 months initially, where I was the host for it. And we kind of wanted to take the next step in terms of the visualization of spoken word, which is in some ways can be lacking, but then you've got great YouTube channels such as Muddy Feet Poetry who do an incredible job with their videos.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like they've upped their game so much over the past 2 years, and you just got to commend them in terms of the posts that they get. And for us, like we really want to kind of branch out and understand different types of poetry, because I feel like sometimes poetry can be very segregated in terms of the styles and what actually gets recorded. So for us, we kind of want to find a niche in that and then work together to, build something that's collectively British in a way and collectively artistic.
Look, I think you've done exactly that. Like I urge anyone that is listening that haven't checked out some of the clips and the kind of stuff that you guys have to go and do so. They literally just have to search for Word of Mouth London, right?
Yep.
That's it. There's some amazing... There's just some amazing content on there, and I think what you do really, really well, which is what you kind of just says, is you're shining a light on the UK scene in a way which allows it to have kind of reach, right? Because it's kind of one of the reasons I started this podcast was I felt like there's so much talent on the scene. There's so many talented people, but I felt like the art form lacked a kind of digital footprint which did it justice, right? And I think what you guys bring really, really well is those visuals, right? And that kind of it turns a poem into what it's meant to be, right? And I just think it's really, really great. So how like many have you done now?
Oh, that's a very good question.
You gotta check the stats.
I think probably we must have recorded over, like, including events, including actual flagship videos, which you call them when we get people in locations or in the studio. It has to be over 100 videos now, which is great for us in terms of the content that we grow up, but we see there's kind of like a US shift in terms of content. Like, you know, the US gets quite, you know, more views than any UK talent gets, which quite frankly, I think is very unjustified.
Yeah.
Because there is, so, like you touched upon earlier, is the fact that there is so much great diverse talent in the UK, which doesn't get the same accolades as, you know, our American counterparts, which I think is very important for us.
No, you're right. Because also when you look at like Button, the numbers of views they get, incredible.
Yeah.
Like millions, some of them. Literally some have properly like popped off, and it kind of does it justice, right? It's what that piece should really get. But there aren't many other YouTube channels that I've come across. Maybe there are. I stand to be corrected. There aren't many other YouTube channels getting those kind of numbers. Why, like, do you think that is?
I think part of it is probably in terms of Button poetry is they're tied to quite a lot of international or national competitions. So when you look at quite a few of their videos, they are at, you know, a slam champion in a way, which is like a really big deal in America. Whereas us, I think we're a lot more underground in terms of our slam. I mean, you can be titled, I remember finding out a couple of years ago, for example, to be titled World Slam Champion, you had to go through, I can't remember the name of the organizations, but no one heard about it. I never heard about it.
Yeah.
And only certain people do know about it. So just to get that accolade, where in America, I think it's a lot more of a big deal, where over here, I think we're trying to shape a different culture, you know, because it's based on different styles, but it's also based on different personalities, which is, I think, one of the most fundamental, important things with poetry.
Yeah. No, it is kind of a weird one, isn't it? I guess we over here in England look to the US in many ways. And I think there's lots of things that we could kind of learn from them. But in a way, I feel like it's kind of quite hard in our British context because we like to understate ourselves. We like to undervalue ourselves and kind of come across as quaint and grateful, right? And those are traits which, like, the majority of Americans don't feel are that important. And I feel like maybe that's a bit of a hindrance as to why that kind of slam stuff is so big. It's, you know, the numbers and views can get massive. And it just doesn't translate over here. Because
the thing is, it's the competitive element, you know, which is very big in America. You know, America is a country of competition. You know, when you think about it, it's like to fulfill the American dream. Where for us, I think like we're very, like you said, we're very understated, which is a massive hindrance, even because I feel like if we did have the same kind of approach that Americans do have in terms of this, not competitiveness, but this kind of approach to be more assertive in our talents, then we're quite frankly on par, if not probably better than some of the American poetry.
Totally. Yeah. Totally, because like
we're not biased at all.
No, but I mean we are, aren't we? But the problem isn't talent. I think what we're kind of saying here, like that is not the issue. That's not the barrier to kind of future growth. There is plenty of talent in our scene in the UK. It's just, I guess it's just cultural stuff, isn't it? And like whatever. So yeah. Lots more I actually want to ask you a little bit about production and word of mouth, but we're going to do that after the second piece that we're going to hear from you, that you're going to perform for us. So the next piece that you're going to do for us is entitled Shark Teeth.
Shark Teeth, yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about this piece before we hear it?
I think deals with quite a lot of stuff that you or teenagers go through, is this notion of self-confidence in particular, and trying to compare yourself to others without actually realizing that you're the only person that you need to compare yourself to. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this piece. Honestly, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think people are going to really, really like it. So look, I'm just going to stop rambling and we're going to jump on and hear it. So this is George Lawrence with Shark Teeth.
Growing up, I used to have teeth like a shark. I would barely smile, fearing the remarks in secondary school, where I used to be called fuck ugly. So ugly. It was no wonder my entire family didn't even want me. Yeah, them words stung hard, man. Alone like Tarzan, in the jungle your mind would rumble when you're emotionally starved, and being parentless, well, it's like learning how to swim with punching armbands. Attempting to lift the weight of this adult world with these glass hands. And I couldn't stand up for myself. As I was made from Samuel Jackson's bones, I was left to atone at another foster home with these sins I've inherited. I'm learning a hateful prerogative, using anger as a sedative. Red mist overexposes the negative. Now I have Sayoroid nightmares. I meet her now like some of my relatives. And if the world's gonna reject me, well, they say fuck me. I might as well embellish it. And relish the thought when I throw a table at a teacher and say, catch. All because I had sudden animosity towards his soul patch, always held back at lessons, smart ass asking the difficult questions, then detained in detention when, quite frankly, all I wanted was some extra attention. Thinking these teachers were here to entertain me. At home, I had PTSD visions of Guernica. Destroying every single household furniture. The pot boils over to the playground, the glass shatters, but it doesn't make a sound when my fist goes straight through a window. And a crimson waterfall is created from the back of another kid's skull. Anger unleashed and with no control leaves you filling with this dread after every single blow. And resuming the decline to the lowest of lows, resuming the decline to the lowest of lows. Because all I wanted to do was just crack a joke and smile. But it's been a while since I did. The last time I did, they winced and I still haven't been able to smile since, see. All I wanted to do was crack a joke and smile, but it's been a while since I did. The last time I did, they winced and I still haven't been able to smile since.
So there we go. That was George Lawrence with Shark Teeth. A wonderful piece, and I think a piece in which so many people are going to be able to relate to, right? That's kind of really, like, you really painted the kind of teenage angsty self perfectly well there. The kind of anger, the confusion, the aggression, everything. It was great. Well done, man. I really like that line where you're like, resuming the decline to the lowest of lows. I think that one kind of jumped out at me a lot. So thank you.
No worries.
Forming that piece. What I wanted to kind of ask is, where do you feel your style with spoken word has kind of come from in your life?
It definitely comes from, obviously, like hip hop, for an example, but it also comes from, like, I'm from family members who are great storytellers. Like, you are just phenomenal when they tell stories. So for me, I always want to embed a certain aspect of a story, you know, or a character arc within the spoken word, especially with some of my later pieces. My early pieces were all about wordplay, just to be like, look how sick I am, you know, look how articulate I am for someone who couldn't speak properly until, you know, had braces, basically. And for me, yeah, it comes from that in terms of trying to combine every single thing that I've witnessed to pull it into something that can resonate for me personally, you know. So I think that's the most important part. It isn't about the audience, it's about what you feel from it, you know. I remember times I've finished writing poetry and I've broken down into tears because I've really felt what I was saying in that particular moment. But in terms of style, yeah, it kind of varies, but I'm trying to get more into a storytelling vibe these days, because some of my favorite poets are like really good storytellers, like Alexander Woodward, Miss Shanky, she's an incredible storyteller.
Yeah.
And Desiree as well, she's absolutely incredible. So I'm trying to kind of like understand where they go, because watching them perform, it's almost like they take you onto different emotional journeys. And they make you feel high, they make you feel low, and it's this sheer sympathy that you have for this person, and then you're with them on that journey, you know. And it's just, for me, it's incredibly beautiful when a poet gets that right, in terms of almost being like the puppeteer of your emotions.
Yeah, no, I think you summed that up kind of really, really nicely, and it's you know, definitely with a piece like the one we've just heard, you can really see that there's kind of value and there's purpose in writing a piece like that. You know, just in terms of kind of self-growth, self-learning, right? It's I like feel like writing spoken word and thinking about it in those kind of terms, like taking the listener on a journey with you, is just such an effective way of dealing with emotions or things that have happened to you in your life. You kind of like write them down on a page, and then you organize them and think about them in a logical kind of start, middle, end fashion. And for me, it kind of just seals that little topic or issue up perfectly. And then I think in your own head, you understand it better. Yeah. You know, like, because you're essentially trying to write something so that when someone listens to it, they're engaged and they understand it, right? Which I feel like is something that translates subconsciously back to you. Like when you're writing this stuff up, you're more engaged with what actually happened, and then you understand it more because you've like organized it in a way. I'm kind of rambling.
No, I know what you mean, because it's the thing is that the way I believe it is, not everyone's going to relate to your entire poem, but they can relate to certain aspects of it. You know, there's certain lines that resonate with people more than other lines. You know, if I was to perform that, some people would take other lines from that, and then you're taking other lines as well, which is kind of a really interesting thing about poetry, because you can kind of have that access. There's always something that does relate back to you, and it's great because it kind of demonstrates all of our individual struggles as well as all of our triumphs, all at the same time, that we can all relate to.
Yeah,
you know, we're not dissimilar as people.
Yeah. So, among your kind of creative strings to your bow is photography, is videography, as we've spoken about with what you're kind of doing with word of mouth, and also your writing. You also kind of do a bit of music as well, right?
Yeah, a tiny bit, yeah.
So what would you say is the kind of coherent strand throughout all your creative outlets for you?
In what way?
Well, what would you say kind of binds them? Like what is the kind of common themes that you tend to like to go to or access whilst creating something?
I mean, I think for me, it has to demonstrate like a thought process that I have or an emotion that I feel. You know, if it starts out with like a line or a vision or not, like, because the thing is, it's weird how ideas come to you. It can either be like an image, it can be something audible, or it could be something that you write down. So for me, I try to just be open to it. I mean, you know, a couple of years ago, I was trying to be like forceful in that creative process, but it's whatever comes to me, and then I have to make a note of it then, and then develop it if I still feel it later on. Or you can go through the experience where you just like, okay, I'm just going to explore and just see what the hell happens because I'm in the zone for doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I think part of it is about creating a space. I mean, because I'm turning my place into a photography studio at the moment. So I had a couple of people come in to do headshots. And it's about creating a space for almost creativity and play. You know, I want the subject to be feeling playful, you know, and I want to feel playful as well. And I feel poetry, and same with writing and videography, is the same process. It's just in this notion of play. You got to be playing around. If you become too conscious of the experience, then it just undermines the whole process.
Totally. Well, look, mate, talking of play, we have reached the part of the show which is entitled 155. Now, are you ready for this?
Good segue.
Great segue, mate. You can tell I've been doing this for a while.
155.
Okay, 155 is the part of the show where we challenge our guests even to a quick fire free write. The rules are as follows. You must pick a word out of that box right in front of us and write a piece all about that word. You have got 1 minute 55 to complete this task, after which you, George Lawrence, solemnly swear to read it out loud. Now, do you solemnly swear to read it out loud?
Unfortunately, so.
Okay. Yeah. Now, that is a verbal contract, but it is binding nonetheless.
Okay.
So, look, the first thing we need to do is grab this little box in front of you. We want to pass it to you. There you go. Give that a little shake. It's a word spoken box. You can tell that because it's got a word spoken sticker on the outside.
I'm feeling lucky,
not a Tupperware. Okay. Word has been picked out. Cool, I can take that. And if you could kindly read out the word that you have picked out from the word spoken box.
Elephant.
Elephant. Right, there you go. Now, so look, you can use it as a prompt. I'm going to give you your book and your piece of paper. So yeah, elephant. I mean, I don't know where you're going to take that. Just use it as a prompt. Take it wherever you want to go. This is the 155 challenge with George Lawrence. Your time starts now.
155.
Okay, so George is writing away. Now, whilst we do this, I'll give you a couple of reminders for everyone at home. If you want to watch what's going on right here, if you want to watch the performances as well as the conversations, as well as proof that George has done this in 1 minute 55, you can watch the entirety of this episode up on YouTube. And if you do so, you've got to subscribe, like, all that blah, 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 good stuff. It really helps out for the show. And I'll be really grateful. So he's frantically writing away. Remember, he did promise to read it out, so he's going to have to read it out. The other thing is you can take part in this challenge, the 155 challenge. So you've got to do a piece with the prompt of the word elephant, send in whatever you guys come up with, and I send the winner a word spoken mug. Now, this is a coveted word spoken mug, and you would be the proud owner of one. So all you have to do is send in via DM or to wordspokenpodcast@gmail.com. And I will flick through each ones I get, and the winner will get their very own word spoken mug. What is not to like about that? So I say, don't be a mug, win a mug. Now look, we're getting very, very close. There's probably about 30 seconds left. I feel like George is looking a little bit frantic.
I love how dramatic the music is.
The music's intense, right? Okay, cool. So we've got about 20 seconds left. Reminder, send in whatever you come up with. The prompt is elephant. This is the 155 challenge. If you don't already follow us on Instagram @WordspokenPodcast, make sure you do that. 10-second countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7.
Okay, I will give you time to collect your thoughts.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Put your pens down. You at home and you, George Lawrence. Mic drop.
I must say, I am not confident.
Are you not? Okay, well, look, in order to kind of build up that confidence bit, I'll like give you just, you read it through once in your head, right? Just kind of build up where you think this could go.
I can make it work.
Yeah, yeah. You feel like you got this. So are you ready? Okay, so this is the 155 challenge with George Lawrence with the prompt elephant.
There's a blue elephant in the cage, but don't think of it. It's drinking beer from its trunk, but don't think of it. The tusk is green, trying to unpick the lock, but don't think of it. The cage doesn't exist, so don't think of it.
Oh, man. Put it there. That was really good.
Oh, thank you.
Honestly, okay, have you surprised yourself? Because prior to doing this, I felt you were like a bit apprehensive about this.
Oh, it's very apprehensive.
That was really good. Do you know what I think you've done there more than anyone else? And it actually speaks to what you said earlier on the show, is told a story with it. There was a kind of like movement through that, and it was very like thought out. When we've had like a couple people and they were just like right, like it was like a full page of stuff, and that was great as well. But that was kind of concise and really well written. Well done, man.
Yeah, that was me just trying to improvise, basically. I don't think I have the patience to be like, because I think you go through the self-editing process, you know. Yeah, which is good. But it's good for some people just to have that free writing. That was fun though. That was really fun.
Yeah, it was kind of stressful.
I would recommend anyone enjoy the dramatic music to go along with it. I felt like I was on like an adult version of Countdown.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I need one of them. Well, that's kind of what that was, wasn't it? So, well done, George. That was generally very impressive. So nice one. So look, my next kind of question is obviously with kind of going a little bit back to your word of mouth stuff, but with word of mouth, you guys were behind the production of a night, which is usually running, isn't at the moment, called Word Up. So can you
great
tell us?
Night, by the way. Absolutely great night.
A good night. It's one of my favorites. It like really is.
The thing is, for me, it's probably one of the most wholesome nights in London. It's great in terms of it's a mission to get to. Don't get me wrong, but when you go there, you just feel like you're part of family, basically.
Totally. But what is it that you guys do with word of mouth at that night that kind of make it a night perhaps unlike many others?
What, for Word Up or?
Yeah, for Word Up.
I mean, we just were asked whether we wanted to, you know, do the recording for it, and we were just like, yeah, because me and Harry, who's like my partner in crime, absolutely love the whole process of recording poetry. You know, it's very enlightening where you get to hear people tell so many great jokes as well. And we managed to get in touch with Charlie to basically get us involved, which was, yeah, it was a dream, to be honest with you, because Charlie's such a great person in general. Like, he's so lovely and he does so much towards the night, as well as the rest of the team, Hannah and Desiree. They do so much towards it, which they're able to actually finance and pay artists as well, which is very important.
Yeah.
Because they got Arts Council funding. And to be honest, it's one of them institutions that definitely need to be protected within the spoken word scene.
100%. Because also you can basically, so I've gone like a couple of times and you go as an open micer and you leave with something on YouTube that looks good and sounds good. You know, and
that's Charlie on sound right there.
Yeah. shout out to Charlie. But those are something which, you know, a lot of the people that write and perform at open mics kind of are wanting but don't necessarily have. And I think that's something which just completely blows it out for me in like terms of making it a kind of really great night. What are some of the things that people can do you think, perhaps on a budget, to help themselves kind of create more content like that?
To be honest, I think the benefit we have right now is the fact that it depends how seriously you want to do. Like, you can either buy yourself a DSLR and record some stuff in your bedroom, but at the same time, you can also use your own phone.
Yeah.
You know, or you can get your friends to record you with like, you know, a gimbal, like a mini gimbal, if you want to have the money to invest. Or if not, just make sure it's all about, for me, it's all about lighting. You know, if you got a phone, like, you know, like the setup you got here, you have a light coming down. If you have a light, just purchase a light or have it right next to a window and a decent enough microphone. I think microphones on phones these days are absolutely incredible. You know, I've used them for voiceover work when people haven't even noticed the difference. And I think it's a part of that, just being conscious of the composition in which you're trying to shoot as well, which I can go into like in depth about the golden ratio, like, you know, the rule of thirds. But it's being conscious about what you're trying to shoot and why you're shooting it, you know, because lighting is really important. If you want to do something, a poem that's really like bright and happy, do it next to a window, you know, where you've got loads of natural light coming in. Or if you want to do one that's a bit dark, just have like, you know, a small like, lamp just coming in, create more of a dramatic effect or shine it underneath you. But there's so many different ways you can do it. Or just hope to be friends with people who like to record you.
Yeah.
And not in a creepy way.
No, but I think you're right. I think one of the things that I want to kind of urge people really is understanding that everyone has a phone, right? And the cameras on them are pretty good, mostly. Like most iPhones, say you have an iPhone, their cameras are pretty good. Like my one's old, but even still, it's perfectly fine. As you said, most mics do a perfect job of it. And it is that. It's just thinking a little bit about some kind of basic look, only just a small bit of thought into what you kind of want it to look like and why you want it to look like that. And I think people can shock themselves with how good they can make their content with the stuff available to them now.
I think it's important just because it's just the fundamentals when do you want the camera higher than you or lower than you? If the camera's lower than you, then you look more empowering. If the camera's higher than you, then you look more submissive, you know, and that can basically dictate how your poem is, you know, like if you want to seem empowered, have the camera lower than you. And if not, have it higher than you. There's so many different techniques that you can use to help facilitate what you actually want to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I urge anyone that is listening that maybe hasn't done that yet, right? Maybe you have a couple of pieces and you're missing the open mics because they're not going on right now. Use your time now to kind of think, to put the time into those kind of things because they can serve you really, really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and listen to that wise words there from George. So mate, we're moving on to the final piece that you're gonna perform for us. It is called Aluminium Carpet. Give us the kind of preamble to this one.
I remember I started reading the works. I was recommended a poet by another poet called Bobby Parker. And I started reading his stuff, and his stuff is all about like working class culture in a way. And it's almost like ramblings. And I was in Italy when I was reading it. And as soon as I finished one of these poems, which is Heroin Lullaby, great poem, anyone should read it. It just gave me this urge in a long time just to write something from the top of my head, which this is what came about, which was Aluminium Carpet.
Well, great. Look, let's jump on and hear it. So this is George Lawrence with the third and final piece we're going to hear from him before we jump into Eyes and Ears and all the good stuff coming up afterwards. This is George Lawrence with Aluminium Carpet.
Another late night drinking loud spirits. And now the morning has an aluminium carpet that I kick. Just like the cans us kids use as footballs that we knock round the streets trying to nutmeg each other. We are both hungover even though I didn't drink. And your voice sounds like shoveling gravel into a hollow pit that leads directly to the core. As you proposition me to skip school, to tidy the mayhem you carried over into sobriety, into a room that still has the curtain drawn to conceal the world from your shame. And I obliged. It was simpler than me either skipping school or walking into a lesson armed with a fake cough that irritates and silences teachers. But I noticed that your thoughts are behind your skull, resting uncomfortably. Rushing to work. A job title I didn't bother to remember when you wiped away my naivety. The same way you wiped away the white powder from your nose and closed the door behind you.
So there we go. That was George Lawrence with Aluminium Carpet. And again, that was another beautiful kind of piece. I think the kind of like common theme in your work is it's very relatable. I think you definitely stick to kind of, you know, you want to have a story to it, but also there's a kind of a laddishness to it, but emotional awareness. Does that make sense? Like both of those things at kind of the same time. Is that a fair comment?
I think, yeah, it is, because it's coming from a working class background like I do. I come from like very laddish culture, which is almost like either the sweet mates or the rude boys, which is something that's fundamental to growing up in London in particular. But it's also the fact that, you know, I'm a poet, you know, I'm a sensitive soul. I mean, if I wasn't, then I wouldn't be doing poetry, you know, I wouldn't be doing filmmaking, I wouldn't be doing photography, which is good to kind of merge them together. And it's taken a while where I'm getting to the point now I feel very comfortable with how I'm getting there to tell these stories. No,
I mean, I love that, and I'm glad, and I'm really glad you have, because it adds something which not everyone else has onto the scene, which is the whole point of this art form, right? Like, I guess it's the same with all other art forms, but because we're just using our voice and we're using our words, like the variety is endless, and the stories and the style is just, that's why I love it.
Amen.
So talking a little bit about that. So the other kind of thing, obviously we've spoken about your video content, but you've kind of recently been involved with London Fashion Week and making some kind of content for them. And I watched the clip and it's epic. It's really, really cool. So can you tell us a little bit about your videography as a kind of, and your like filmmaking as a professional filmmaker that you are?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that shoot because that was the most drama I've ever had on a shoot in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it made me realize why I love filmmaking so much, because it is a problem solving medium, you know, because it's this organism that's constantly going. And me and my partner were directing it, and we had this theater set up. We had a 2-day shoot. We had like 7 choreographers lined up. We had a 20-person crew. And basically, we found out that my friend who's the DOP for it ended up, you know, having a connection to someone testing positive for COVID.
Oh my God.
And the day before the shoot, my partner's flatmate ends up testing positive for COVID. So that means we had to self-isolate. And I managed to get a director in last minute the day before. And then the next day, he ended up not going to the shoot because he was coughing up blood. And it turned out he had, I think, a lung, like chest infection as well. And then we had to cancel the shoot, which was, it's drama, you know.
It just sounds like it was cursed.
It really was. It really was. It was a cursed shoot, but I mean, we managed to come up with an alternative plan and have a turnaround of the shoot. So we had like, originally we were going to have like 5 days to edit this, but then we had to work out a way where I would shoot it, but I would also basically do it on long lens and socially distance and do it based on the dancers, you know, discretion. And luckily enough, we managed to get it done, shoot it over 2 days and then edit it in 2 days and managed to get the whole process done and delivered to London Fashion Week, which was absolutely incredible. And then we found out recently it's the 4th most viewed video for London Fashion Week.
Hey,
considering
congrats,
all
man.
of that drama. But it made me realize why I love filmmaking so much, because it is this problem solving medium, which you don't really get in any other places, because apart from if you're running a night is a very problem solving problem. Like, you know, probably with you, anything technical is very difficult to do because you have to rely on technology. You know, technology works best when you don't notice it working.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. It only kind of throws a hurdle when suddenly one element goes wrong and then
Yeah, I'm sure you've definitely had that.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure. Also, a bad workman blames his tools. There are times where, you know, I've just done something wrong myself. But where can people find this clip? Is it up on Insta?
Yeah, it should be on YouTube. So it's 5 Troubles, Emilio Della Morena. Yeah, it's there.
I urge people to go and check it out because it's wicked. And I think it really kind of highlights your talent for making video content look and sound sick.
I wish I could take credit for it, but it was all of ours. Like, because it was everyone who was involved, from the editor to Harry, who was also the camera person. You know, my partner Lou, who was fundamental in the whole process. Like, it's always a collective effort, and that's why I love filmmaking so much, because it isn't just like you getting up on a stage, which is great, you know, as a poet, which is a really good niche for me to have in terms of like exercising that emotional muscle. Whereas for filmmaking, it's a lot more diplomatic, which I really enjoy. Really, really enjoy it. Yeah,
because I guess spoken word is, you know, unless you're part of a bigger group, which is pretty rare, like it's a one-man band thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're writing, you're performing it, and it's the opposite of filmmaking.
You're your own hype man, you're your own accountant, you're your own,
everything.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool, buddy. We have reached the show, which is called Eyes and Ears.
Love it. Eyes and ears. Okay, that's for you.
Do you like my jingles, mate?
Mate, I'm loving the funk, man. It's so funky.
So, Eyes and Ears is the part of the show where we get our guests to give us a recommendation, something for our eyes to feast on and something for our ears to find blissful. So, George Lawrence, what have you got for our eyes?
Me? Just watch me.
I have my face.
Yeah, just that. Just put it on. I would have to say Waiting for the Carnival, which is a Brazilian documentary film done by Marcelo Gomes, which focuses on this region, on this town in Brazil, which is almost considered the jean capital of the country, where everyone works independently in independent factories.
As in jeans, as in trousers.
Trousers, yeah. And their big payday is Carnival, you know, and it's gearing up towards them getting ready for Carnival. And it's the most charming documentary I've ever seen. It's incredibly charming because it breaks so many documentary conventions, such as the director breaking the fourth wall and then going into this beautiful sequence, which kind of makes it incredibly cinematic. You know, these cinematic guy is absolutely astonishing in how he gets these people to open up. And at the end, yeah, I'm not going to spoil it, but he's made really good decisions with it. And you're just kind of like taken away with the journey, thinking about a random place that you would never know existed and knowing that there's life happening right there.
I love that. Well, look, so that was Waiting for the Carnival by Marcelo Gomez. That's up on YouTube, right? You can go and... Is it up on YouTube? I've seen clips on YouTube.
It might be.
Maybe the whole thing isn't.
You got to check probably on Mubi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm one of these people now.
Yeah, I like that, mate. I like that. Well, look, I once you sent that over to me, I kind of checked out what I could about it online, and I fully agree, man. It looks so interesting and unique. So I urge people to go and do that. Okay, what have you got for our ears, buddy?
I have to recommend. I always recommend this podcast, which is 99% Invisible by Radiotopia. Which is I've been listening to this podcast for years because it's all about art and design, and it's how art and design come together. In particular, there's one great episode where they talk about the California, you know, like the swimming pools, the ones that people skate in.
Yeah.
It's about the story of how that came into America, that design. And how it influenced skaters all the way through, you know, California, where this design, I think, originally started up in Sweden.
Really?
In the 30s. And it goes into the history of, like, you know, the architect that came up with that design and how it becomes massive, integral to skate culture.
To the culture, yeah. It's like part of it.
So they do little stories like that where they try to bring art and design together. And it's just so insightful. You know, there's some things that you're just like, Christ, I never knew about that, you know, or like in Oklahoma where they practice supersonic travel. But the reason why supersonic travel failed because of the fact of how loud it is, you know, and then looking into interviewing local residents about why it failed and in terms of how you can potentially do it better in terms of that design. It's really, it's really, really good podcast if you're a nerd like me, basically.
Well, look, I love that. Look, I think those are two great recommendations. People should go and check them out. What I really like about what people bring to this segment is it's things which people should know about, right? These are things like people really think about what are things which are really great. But if someone just started to listen to it, they're like, whoa, how have I been like missing out on this thing? And I think those are two prime examples of exactly that. So yeah, that was Waiting for the Carnival by Marcelo Gomez and 99% Invisible, the podcast. Go and check them out. That was our wonderful segment called Eyes and Ears. So we have reached the final little outro bit of this podcast. Time's gone pretty quick, mate. That's
always a good thing.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? The kind of final question, which I always ask, is what are your kind of plans for the future with your spoken words? Any final words of wisdom? And anything you want to plug?
I have to plug word of mouth. Check us out on YouTube, Instagram. We're trying to get another night going. We're trying to do something which is really ambitious, should we say, as a live space, you know, which watch that definitely, which should be coming out in a couple of months. But also, I'm just basically working on this other documentary, which I've been working on for the past 6 months now, which is a passion project. And it's probably one of the most incredible experiences I'm going through currently as a piece of art, which me and my partner are basically developing, because it's just following on a story of a very interesting person who kind of has the world at their feet, but it's just been dragged off of their feet, you know. And it's going to be a long process because we're probably going to end up keep filming this for the next year at this rate. But I'm really, really enjoying it. So we're doing that. And then it's also with my spoken word, I'm aiming to release a lot more new stuff. Like today, you know, I've had 2 new poems, which I haven't really performed on a night yet. So I have quite a lot of backlog. You know, it's almost my Corona poems, lockdown poems, which I'm sure anyone can relate to, where you're just like, I've got ammunition now. Yeah.
Where obviously this doc's going to take a while, right? But in the future, where can people find that? Do you think they will be able to?
It depends, because the thing is, we have to pitch it to some channels for distribution. So it really depends if we're lucky enough, which I think we will, because the subject matter is very, very interesting and the access we got is very, very great. I sound like Donald Trump like that. Very, very, no, I don't
Tremendous.
like tremendous. But it will depend on who basically ends up funding it for our distribution, which could be, so I'm definitely going to keep it. The moment when I find out, I'll be gassed.
Fingers crossed, mate. I will be sharing as much as I can. So look, mate, thank you so much for coming down. But the final thing we need to do is remind everyone where they can follow you on Instagram. Self-plug.
Oh, shit. I have to plug myself now.
You do, mate. This is the awkward bit. This is us Brits being like, oh, I don't want to sell myself. Sell yourself now.
Oh, God. That sounds like Steve Coogan then. Oh, God. So you can find me probably on Instagram. Is the only place you can find me on is at Trigger Crappy. Yeah, it's Trigger Crappy. You heard that right.
Mm-hmm. Trigger Crappy.
Yeah,
where we can find lots of your photography, man, and your
spoken word as well.
Your timeline is fire. So Trigger Crappy, Crappy. Mate, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I've enjoyed having you down. Just to remind everyone, we have had 3 pieces. We've had The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, Shark Teeth, and Aluminium Carpet. The Eyes and Ears segment we had just at the end there was Waiting for the Carnival by Marcelo Gomez and 99% Invisible, the podcast. We've had words of wisdom about videography. We've had tips. We've learned about your inner workings of your creative process, and I've enjoyed it very much.
I love how you said aluminum.
Oh, did I? That's because we mentioned America, man. Did I really?
That's so American. I love it.
Aluminum. Oh, God.
Aluminum carpet.
See ya stateside, mate. Yeah. I'm heading off to button poetry now. Thank you very much, mate. And we'll see everyone listening next week.
Much love. Thank you.
Ciao.